Hello everyone, I'm Kingsley here. So today we want to dive into understanding the Ruby Singleton class. For us to understand the Singleton class, first we have to understand how objects are being created in Ruby. In Ruby, we have when we want to create an object, first we define a class. The class contains all our property and methods in which we want our object to have. So as you can see in this my diagram, I have color-coded it. So this here is the class. Also, I made it /object because we know in Ruby, everything is an object. So this is the class. And we want to create objects from it. As you can see, you can create multiple objects from a particular class. But there's a process that goes on, which is not always talked about. When we are trying to create an object from a class, there's a singleton class that is always associated with a particular object, tied to a particular object. Say we have a class student and we want to create an object, say Kingsley and Michael. When we create those two objects, there's a singleton class that is tied to every object. Say this is Kingsley. There's a singleton class tied to Kingsley. This is Michael. There's a singleton class tied to Michael. Then you might ask, what exactly is this singleton class? This singleton class is basically a clone of this class, but it's tied to a particular object, and it can only be one. It can only exist in a single. It can exist only close to the particular object. So basically, what happens is when Ruby comes and sees a class, it then clones the class as a single thing, and then creates an object from that single thing. From that single thing that he has cloned. When he wants to create an object, it does the same thing. It clones this class, a singleton, and then creates an object from that singleton class. That's basically what's happening underneath when you create a new object from a class. Let's see how they are usually represented in Ruby. Most times the class is represented by just the class name. When you want to log out the self for a class, it's basically just the class name. For an object, you see the hash, the less than, and then you see the class name. Say in our case, in this our use case, we're creating Kingsley from the class student. Then the class here will be student, and then the hex will be the hex representation of Kingsley. Why the singleton class is always represented by hash less than the class name, sorry, the class, just a class symbol, just the constant class, and then the class name of that singleton, which it was cloned from. In our case, if we were to console log out this singleton class for our object Kingsley, to show class column in students, because the singleton was cloned from students. We've said many theoretical stuff. Let's write some code and see how all this work in code. So let me bring out my code editor. Let me expand this. So first, let's see how all this play out. Let's first create a class. So let's say class student. Let's give it let's allow it to have a name. So you can define a constructor. Let's allow a constructor to accept a name. Then we can give an instance variable to be equals to name. Also, you can also define a method, an instance method, and that will just return the name. Also, let's also add one more function, a class method, which is a method that it's for that particular instance of that class. Let's do the self dots let's name it class name. And for this, let's just push out. For this class is student, we can just push out student. Okay. So sorry, there's a mistake. Okay, yeah. So we've created the class object, which is just a class. So now let's create an object from this class. So let's say S or sorry, Kingsley equals student Kingsley. So here we've created a new object called Kingsley. Let's create another object. Let's do Mike equals student.Mike. So here we've created two objects. But then you might ask, where is the singleton class? Where is it, and how do we know it actually exists? If you then go to each object, let's do Kingsley dot singleton class. You can then say let's console log this out. Let's do P, and let's also console log the singleton class for Mike dot singleton class. So let's run this code. Voila! As you can see here, this is the singleton class. As you can see, it has the class and then the objects that it represents, which is basically what was shown in this section. Oh, I think there's a mistake here. Here is supposed to actually be the object representation, not the class name. There's a mistake here, but it's basically class column, the object representation. Let's go back to our code. Okay, so in order for us to then see the representation for the class, let's just console log out here p self, because that is actually what is in the class method. You can just console log this out here. And you can see here this is students, which is the self, which is the representation for class object. If you want to check the representation for the object itself, you can just do p Kingsley name and do p Mike. As you can see here, we have the representation for the student class. You also have the representation for the objects, and lastly, we have the representation for the singleton class. These are some of the key components while we are creating objects. Singleton class is very, very important. Yes, here we haven't seen some of the use cases. In my next video, I will show you how we can add methods to an object through either the singleton class or actually the main class. Most times it's not talked about, but subtly, Ruby is actually using a singleton class to actually add methods to objects. Yeah, I think that will be all for now. I hope I did a little bit of justice to help you understand how the singleton class play in the whole scope of object creation. Currently, there's no use case. I will give more use case in my next video. Thank you for watching, and have a good day.